Do you want to take your life to the next level? Join us as we learn from real people who've overcome real problems with real solutions. Welcome to the Unstoppable Growth Podcast with your hosts, Rebecca and Tim Lindsay. All right, today we are joined by Lacey Flint. Lacey, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, Lacey, before we jump in, I'd love to learn a little bit more about Lacey.
All right, so I was born and raised in the area.
You don't hear that very often, by the way. Here.
Yeah, I know. So Charleston native, I like to say. I grew up about 45 minutes from Charleston, but grew up going to church every Sunday with a religious family. Went to College of Charleston and have lived in the area in Mount Pleasant since my senior year of college. So I've been here since, when was that? 2009 officially. But started going to Seacoast in 2018 timeframe. Just kind of lurking in the shadows. I was separated and didn't really want people asking a whole lot of questions about my situation. So went somewhere where I knew nobody would ask a whole lot of, oh, you're new here, tell us about yourself. So did that for 2 or 3 years, and then decided I wanted to get more involved.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, we all know Lacey very well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see Lacey every Sunday. I see her all over the church. So, there's no lurking in the background anymore for you.
No, and I have 2 kids, ages 8, and my son will be 6 next week. So I wanted to make sure that I was somewhere where they could be involved. I wanted them to grow up in a church environment. So.
Perfect.
And we all love Lacey, of course. I got to know you at Next Steps as you went through our integration assimilation course at Seacoast Church. And it was awesome. And then you became part of the Unstoppable community and have gone through it and went through the process and experienced some kind of transformation, which I'm excited to discover and uncover today with you.
Yes.
And then also have become a coach and a part of the community. And we're just so excited about, what God has done in your life and what he wants to do in your life. Agree? All right. Lacey, tell us a little bit. How did you find out about Unstoppable Growth?
So when I did stop lurking in the shadows and decided to do Inside Track or Next Steps now, I was finishing up that last week and you happened to be forming an event team, which is what I was really interested in doing. So worked alongside you and a few other great people to do the Dream Team celebration events for a year or so, meeting every week for a while, planning those, bringing those visions to life and things like that. And I think at the end of one of our events, you were recruiting people for the next round of Unstoppable. And so I said, okay, sure. I didn't really know what it was or what it was about. So I kind of showed up just with the open mind that first Saturday and said, what the heck, let's do it. So
let's jump
I knew I was in a rut in place in my life. So I knew I needed something to help kind of break free from that.
Yeah, share about that. What was sort of like what was the rut that you were in and the need to sort of make a change?
So I said I was divorced or had been separated when I started going to Seacoast. My divorce was finalized in 2020, which I think is around the time I did Next Steps and knew that I needed to be doing more, wanted more. And so then when you touched on Unstoppable and gave me that invitation and I started reading into it, I was like, okay, I think this is kind of what I need. I was just, like I said, stuck in a rut. I was the first in my friend group and family to go through a divorce. My parents have been married for 40 years, so I didn't have anybody from a relational standpoint that could really offer advice or knew what I was going through. So I knew I needed support and I needed a community. My family, not that they weren't supportive, they just didn't fully understand the full picture and things that I was experiencing. And so I felt guilty because there are kids involved. I felt ashamed. I had just all these limiting beliefs about myself. And so from a relationship standpoint, my friend group, I went from having a ton of friends, a ton of things to fill up the social calendar, and that shrunk and got really small amid my divorce. And then, I don't know, I just felt like I was unworthy of new people investing in me or new friendships or new relationships. And so it was just kind of a really down hard season. And so I said, I'll give Unstoppable a try and see if I can't break out of this rut that I'm in.
Yeah.
How do you even figure out? I mean, you saying you were the first one in your family, in your friends group, of how much can I share? Do I want to share? Like, how much did you want to keep up the, I'm Lacey, I have my
Right.
life together as well, besides of, no, actually my life looks like it's going downhill right now.
Yeah.
How did you handle this whole pressure?
It was hard. I was used to, be like, I'm such a perfectionist. So I was used to being perfect or trying to be perfect in everything, and such a control freak. And, on the outside, I appear that everything is together at all times. I always made good grades. I was never in trouble as a teenager or young adult. Like, just always had it together. Excelled in my career and did anything that I wanted to do. If I put my mind to it, I could do it, except for my marriage. I just felt like that was the most like monumental fail someone could have as an adult. And I felt
it's
like
happening to you.
it's happening to me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why me? How did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of brought me down several notches. And so, I still tried to appear as though everything was good on the outside. I have this hard shell, and I'm not super emotional, and, still trying to be there for friends. But on the inside, I was just a wreck. And so it was hard because I didn't have that support.
Yeah. Is that something that you feel that came just from yourself, or do you feel like there's a stigma also around that?
Yeah, I kind of, my kids, when they're in school, they went to a day school, a church school, in their preschool years. And I just feel like I was they were some of the only kids that came from a split family at that time. I mean, now that they're older and in, elementary school, there's more families that are in their situation, but it just kind of felt like there was a stigma. Some of the school moms are like, oh, we don't want to include Lacey in our group. She's not going to come to the yoga dates and the coffee dates and things. I don't know. I just felt like there was a stigma around being divorced. And my ex-husband is a very private person, and it was really hard because a lot of our friends were all intertwined. I was friends with my girlfriends married his friends from high school or college. So it was just a very intertwined friend group. And so I had to be careful, what I shared out of respect for him too, and what I told people. And like I said, my friend group shrank pretty significant.
And did I understand that correctly? It also shrank because your calendar was different than they were. They were more at home, and you had to work, or you chose to work, or whatever that was, and then.
Well, just because I, like I said, from a lot of our friends were intertwined, and so it was like when we divorced, there was a pretty big group of friends that I didn't get to, like, they kind of went with the divorce, I guess, went with him in the divorce because they were married to his friends or had connections through him. And, we still talk and we're still cordial, but in terms of like getting invited to the dinner parties and the cookouts and things like that, that just wasn't a part of it anymore. And so there's been several friend groups that I've, even going through Unstoppable, that I've had to look at and say, okay, are these people of peace for me? Do these people fulfill me in the way that I need to be fulfilled? And so there's been several people that I've had to kind of take a step back from and say, I love you and, all of these things, but it's just not a healthy kind of relationship, or it's not a beneficial one for me. And so there's been several instances like that where I've had to kind of take a step back and evaluate the people around me.
Yeah.
How did it impact even your relationship to God? You said like you grew up in a Christian family, you attended church, and then it's like in the between, the life you thought it's going to happen, it's not happening. You're showing them like, you still can count on me, I'm still here, I'm still showing up, but inwardly you were like crumbling. And where was God in that for you?
Right. I think I struggled a lot of times with that because I felt like I let him down in a lot of ways. But then there were some days where I would, just be angry at the situation, or that, was in this, divorced life. And then I would get mad and like kind of lash out at him and say, why did you allow this? Why me? Why, so kind of had to come to terms with that, to know that he's got, and I wrote down Jeremiah 29:11 because it's one of the verses that's gotten me through a lot of hard times, even within my marriage, when we lost one of our pregnancies due to a heart defect and things like that. And, just that's one of the verses that I feel like pulls me through hard times, and it kind of makes me excited for the future and what's in store, just knowing that he does have a plan for me, and it's not to harm me but to prosper me and give me a future, that kind of thing. So I just kind of had to lean back on that, and that kept just kind of sticking back into my mind, like, okay, just trust him, he's got it, he's, you know, there's something for you, you just got it, his timing, not yours. And just kind of remember all of those things. But yeah, there was a time there for a while where it was kind of touch and go, and it was, you know, why me? How did I get here? That kind of thing.
So good for you for not giving up.
Come on. Come on, Lacey. Let's go.
Some people behind, some family, even, you know, the rhythms or areas, and then you saying, okay, but I am still showing up in a church. You maybe weren't in a place of, I'm ready to serve and get invested, or maybe even have relationships, but being, God, I'm showing up. I need to hear from you, you know. And
I knew I needed him. I knew I needed to hear the sermons and stuff. So that's why I just, like I said, I wanted to go lurk in the shadows and still get my dose of Jesus. But I just didn't want to answer questions because I was too ashamed. And I would almost felt like an imposter, like, oh, do I belong here? Do I, you know? And oddly enough, the first time I invited my mom to Seacoast with me through the divorce process, it was a sermon on parenting adult children. And, you know, she didn't always agree with my decision through the divorce, and she really kind of fought me on it at times because there were kids involved and things like that. And I know she's had good intentions, and she just wanted to make sure that I was thinking through everything. But it was parenting adult children. And I mean, I think her and I both in that sermon were just sitting there. She was like sobbing tears. I was tearing up. And so it just was like, okay, I think I made the right decision. This is where I'm supposed to be. You know, that kind of thing. It felt good.
If you leave church crying, it was a great service.
Yes, for sure.
No, that's so. I think you're right, Rebecca. You know, that's one of the first things. Also, like when we talk about unstoppable growth, and you're in a rut, you want to get out of that rut, or you know, life's going great or whatever, and you're thinking about what's your next step. It takes courage to take that first step. It takes courage to register. It takes courage to say, okay, if I register, I know that like I'm going to have to, you know, pull open the curtain. I'm going to have to be vulnerable. I'm going to have to get into some kind of a coaching group. The coach is going to ask me some kind of questions. Even maybe you didn't understand exactly what was going to happen, but you took that brave step to become a part of that community. So well done.
Yes.
Let's go.
And I don't know about the math, Lacey, but it doesn't seem like you were lingering in the shadows too long.
No, probably maybe a year and a half before I decided, okay, I need to take the next step and get involved.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So, okay, so you signed up for Unstoppable, and whose coaching group were you in? Who was your coach?
So when I went through it, Holly and Lyndon.
Holly and Lyndon were your coaches.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, they were awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Howard, weren't you in this blondie group? They were like all the blondes.
There were a lot of blondes. I didn't realize we were referred to as the blondie group, but there were
behind the scenes.
There were a lot.
How are the blondies doing?
When all the coaches going to talk about how their frustrations.
The blonde group was the one that comes to.
No, not at all, not at all. And so, what was your first experience?
I just remember the questions that they would ask on those Tuesday night Zoom calls. I just remember being like, oh man, they really put you in the hot seat, and you have to dig, and you can't just give the answer like the church answer, the answer that they're expecting. Like they want you to really, like they will call you out if you just kind of skirt the surface. Like they need you to dig deep. But I remember that first Saturday, the kickoff, hearing the testimonies from people, and they were so powerful. It was Dawn and David and the Gilmers, and just, you know, both of their testimonies were based around, you know, it being their second or third marriage in John's case. And
it's okay, John.
It's okay, John. I have to insert something. So we're at Unstoppable Growth last Saturday. Yeah. And now, you know, we used to have worksheets, and now we have a workbook, right? And so we're going through the workbook, and then
there was a workbook link.
So there was a workbook left behind. And so all the people who were left behind and looking through that, about no name on it. And then we pull open the Kairos life map. And and the Kairos life map, we draw all the highs and lows of our life type thing, the 15 most highest and lowest points of our life, so that we can sort of find out or why we exist, and how does God want to use us to help others, and then we're just going like divorce.
Second divorce. We're like, oh, this is John.
And we had such a good laugh today about that.
Yeah, but hearing their testimonies, I was like, oh wait, they didn't get it right the first time, and they have these blended families and these second chances or third chances, and they're excelling, and they're found their person, and they are they're awesome, and their comeback stories were unbelievable, and so that gave me a lot of hope. I think hearing those testimonies that first week, they were really powerful.
Yeah, that's so good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So, very good.
I have a question for you. Obviously, you weren't sharing with a lot of people what you were going through, and then obviously a big part of Unstoppable Growth is like week 1 or week 2. It's share your story, like lay it all out there. How did you feel going through that?
So when they first said, we're going to have you do a video and upload it to this Facebook page, I was like, oh, absolutely not. I am not. There is no way I am doing that. Recording myself and then posting it for whoever to see. But then the testimonies came, and I was just sitting there, like, they were so vulnerable. And I mean, they shared the good, bad, and the ugly about themselves. And so I think that kind of motivated me to say, wow, okay, if David can get up here and tell about his sins and his problems, and John and Jen, just everybody, and they talk about their problems and being vulnerable. And I saw what that did for them and the breakthrough that they had. So, me being a 3 on the Enneagram, I was like, well, I want that. I want to achieve what they have. Like, that's the end goal. So if being vulnerable is what it takes, then I got to be vulnerable. So then I had a 180 and I left there saying, all right, well, I got to get home and do my Facebook video and upload it. And, it took me about 27 takes to do it. I don't even know that I would say it's perfect.
57.
Oh, maybe that's probably more accurate, 57 attempts. So anyways, but yeah, just that their vulnerability in those testimonies made me say, okay, I need to dig deep.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome. So you've got into your coaching group. They're asking you the question. What was sort of like the main topic for you that you dug into? Oh
man. So the lessons that really stuck with me were when we were talking about what are our, it was a lesson on limiting beliefs. And it was like, what is your holdup? What's holding you back? And when you listed off all the different things, I was like, yeah, check. It was like every single one of those. It was fear. It was the people pleasing, the not being able to say no, like every single one of those, the, not being able to relinquish control, the guilt, the shame, just every single limiting belief that you listed. I was like, oh man, all of those apply to me. So I think the lesson on boundaries. That must be very depressing, though. Yeah. I was like, man, I thought I was a pretty upbeat, like confident person, and then you just list off all those things. I'm like, how does all of those apply to me?
There are times during Unstoppable Growth Time where we do feel a little bit bad. Ooh.
Oh. But the lesson on boundaries, I think, was a good one for me, because I just come from a family where we just have none. Yeah. And so, and I've watched my mom say yes to everything, and she doesn't set boundaries, and then she gets, overcommitted and run down, and she doesn't invest in herself. Like, I watched that from her, and I'm like, how do I stop that? Because I don't want to become that person, but I found myself becoming that person. And so, realizing that boundaries are healthy and are safe was a kind of a new concept for me, because I just felt like if you put up boundaries or you tell people no, that was being, rude, or unaccommodating or selfish. And I was like, having to learn that no, it's healthy and, and safe, creating a safe place for you mentally, physically, spiritually. Like, that was kind of eye-opening for me. Yeah, that's so good. I think that's one of the big, I think it's chapter 12 in the book where we talk about set your boundaries. And it's like in the last month, we talk about boundaries around, setting boundaries around your spiritual capital. So we walk through the different capitals in month 2, and then we talk about in month 3, how to set boundaries around your spiritual capital, your relational capital, your physical, intellectual, and financial capital, and how important that is.
that if you don't, set those boundaries, if you don't steward that capital well, that you can lose it, and that God can't use it, and you can't be a blessing to others.
Right.
If you've spent all your time and energy in all the different places, and you're not spending it on where God wants you to invest into those relationships, invest into that calling, then you can't. And it's a part of that intellectual boundaries that we talk about, limiting beliefs, and how limiting beliefs can really stop you from growing. And I think that's like one of the huge takeaways for everybody here, especially in the South, when we talk about those limiting beliefs, is like just the simple boundary of saying no.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, right? Because in every culture that we've lived in, whether it's Ireland or Switzerland or even in Uganda and here, people have a hard time saying no because they want to please others, they want to help others, they want to support others, they want to present themselves as somebody who's, accessible and can help. And so nobody wants to turn somebody down.
Right.
But talk to us about that. How did you start to turn people down? And what kind of a positive impact did it have on you?
Yeah, it was hard. I'm such a people pleaser. I just want everybody to accept me and love me all the time. So, having to say no to things, but like I said, some of those relationships that I had to take a step back from, I had to kind of reevaluate those and say, are these serving me well? And, just kind of started putting up boundaries and saying no more often in those situations because I realized that those weren't people that I needed in my life forever.
Yeah.
And so in some cases it was very clear who I needed to put boundaries up with. In some cases, to those that were closer to me, it was a little bit harder to put those boundaries up.
And those are so talk to us about those ones, because the ones that are clear, like when the sort of like when the devil comes in all of his glory type thing, it's like, okay, let you get out of here. But then there's relationships that you also you're not sure if you're making the right decision. Or maybe you were sure that you were making the right decision. You just needed the courage to go ahead and do it. Right. What was that like?
So there's one relationship in particular that I think y'all might be getting at that was really hard to,
I'm not.
that I wasn't sure if it was the right decision or not, and still don't really know if it was the right decision. I just know that for a long time I tried to make it work because I wanted it to work. But then I had to step back and realize, my plan and God's plan might not be quite the same. And so there was just something within me that kept telling me, that something was missing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know what it was. But it just required me to have a really tough conversation. And I'm probably 3 or 4 weeks removed from that now. And so it's a little, I won't say it's easier, because there's still some tough days, but I'm just, like I said, I repeat Jeremiah 29:11. And when I do that, it does make me a little bit excited for what's in store if that wasn't the relationship for me or the one that I was supposed to have moving forward. I do think that people come in your life for a reason. And I think I learned a lot about myself and, in a lot of different ways. But setting boundaries for people that are close to you it's definitely hard. Yeah. Definitely challenging.
It's not just, you said before, they're serving me, but it's very often it starts on the right place. And you have those good times. I always say too, it's almost we're traveling together on a highway, but there are times where they leave you on an exit, or you have to leave on an exit because it's you realize it's more you start serving them or you start pleasing them. So whatever they put into your life, or even ask you a question too. Right. Not just, hey, this is my need. Are you here to solve it now? And so because you've been together even for a while, this makes it very hard as well to acknowledge it's not what it used to be, and it's actually taking time away from relationship where both of us can prosper. Both of us can, it's not just, that's the way it is. Sometimes I feel that's what people say. Yeah. And so we just continue instead of, okay, what if? Because the thing is too, if I'm not prospering, I even would say the other one is not prospering. They think they are because maybe you're doing some things for them,
Right.
or you're giving them the words they think they need to hear. But if this person is not the right one for me, I'm not the right one for that person. And so
Right.
by setting a boundary and saying no to someone, you're actually inviting someone in that is supposed to be around you.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I think in this particular instance, they were actually pouring into me way more than I was pouring into them. And I think I realized that and felt guilty about it, and did feel bad because I wasn't able to offer the same things to them that they were so easily offering to me. And so when I just realized, like I said, I tried to get there and to get on the same page and level, and just couldn't. And like I said, I don't know what it was, but in this instance, it wasn't that, I was, being drained of all my energy in the relationship. It was, they were giving me a lot, and I couldn't find the time or priorities to give them the same thing. And I felt bad about it, and just had to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Cool. We did that.
So you're going through the 90-day process. You're got your why statement. I wonder, has that changed?
No,
No,
so
same.
it's still the same. And I think what was really a big instrumental part of creating my why statement was the fivefold ministry test that we did. I was
Which, quick plug, you can
Yeah.
do at unstoppablegrowth.org, 5-role assessment up on the top right. You can get it done there. Free of charge.
There you go.
Good
Yeah,
plug,
which
Tim.
I highly recommend, because I did that, and I was one of the few people who got the apostle gift, which was the dream awakener. And so, I was reading the description of that, and it basically said that you're instrumental in helping people discover their purpose, and you're very opinionated on what you think other people should be doing.
And you were like,
Which
that's
is,
me.
I was like, yep, that's
100%.
and that you get frustrated when they don't, reach their potential, or they don't work for it, which is also true in a lot of things for me. And so when I saw that, it was weird because, and this is kind of where it comes full circle. So I started, like we said, in doing Next Steps, and then the event team, and then you invited me to do Unstoppable. I think we did the fivefold ministry test the second Saturday. So that second Saturday after we took that, and I realized that I had scored very highly in this apostle category, the Harveys from Inside Track or Next Steps came to me and just Ashley said, "Hey Lacey, when are you going to come back to Next Steps and be a table leader?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, that really fits with the helping people figure out their potential." And so I just kind of felt like that was a God wink saying, "Hey, you need to get involved even further." So I went back and have been a table leader ever since then, which I think was in 2021 time maybe.
And you can see Lacey on the wall. Actually.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
A giant life-size.
A giant Lacey.
We have a giant Lacey. We have a sticker or a vinyl on the windows at our church where the Next Steps course is, and she's like, big picture there.
Too big.
And she just loves it every time she sees it.
I don't know who approved that. I still need to have them with them. But anyways, doing the table leader stuff for Inside Track or Next Steps. And then so in doing that, I'm living out my why statement, which my why statement was to inspire others in a safe, relatable environment so that people overcome obstacles and fulfill their God-given purpose.
Wow, I love that.
So the safe, relatable environment came through the testimonies and seeing the Gilmers and Dawn and David give their testimonies. And I was like, man, I just wanted to be in, like, I'm more open to being vulnerable when I know it's a safe environment. And,
totally.
Creating a relatable space. So I found out the more that I opened up to people and told them about my situation or my divorce and my, being a single mom in Mount Pleasant and, all the things that come with that, I realized more people were willing to open up and share their experiences. And I was like, oh, I'm not alone. Like there are other people who, have gone through this or are in the process of going through this right along with me. And so creating that safe, relatable space was really important for me. And then obviously getting them to live out their God-given purpose fits with the apostle category, and then just Unstoppable in general, and what Next Steps is a part of. So it just kind of all fit together in this big puzzle. And so I was like, oh wow, it's all come full circle.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also the next step from that is you became a coach.
I did. Yeah.
So you keep coming back to Unstoppable Growth.
Come on.
Yeah.
Why do you keep coming back?
It's whenever I could go do the Zoom calls or go to those Saturdays and hear the lessons again and go through the material, it's just like a good reminder. It kind of just level sets me for that week or for that month. And, there's always some things that can be improved upon. I'm not perfect by any means. But I do remember when Rebecca called me that it was one of the last few weeks of Unstoppable when I was a participant, and she left me a voicemail, hey Lacey, just call me back. I wanted to talk to you. And I was like, oh man, I am either so stoppable that she is calling me
for the program
to tell me, hey, you've got like 2 weeks to get it together and pass this course, or she's going to call and ask me to be a coach. And I honestly didn't know
which way it was going.
So when she asked me to be a coach, I was nervous. I was like, oh man, I feel like an imposter. Like, am I really ready to do that?
Yeah.
But, I thought, hey, if I can live out my why statement and inspire others and just create that safe space for them, then that's really all I need to do.
Why did you feel you were an imposter?
I mean, growing up in the church all my life, there's still just many areas of my spiritual relationship with God that I feel like needed improvement. Like if you were to quiz me on Bible knowledge, I would fail miserably. And, if I say that I have a daily devotional that I go through every day or even every week, that would be a lie. So there was just so many areas spiritually that could be improved for me. And so, my spiritual goals on my vision board were overflowing because there were more than enough things I could be doing. But just like I said, I just felt like there were so many more people out there in general that could be leading people to God. And
so you feel like you're not worthy of that or whatever. And then Rebecca asks you, and then you step into it. How did you get to making that step?
I just had to kind of go back to what I learned in Unstoppable and, kind of throwing out those limiting beliefs that I said were such a big thing in the beginning. And looking at my why statement, saying, hey, if I can just create a safe, relatable space for people to be vulnerable, and if I can be vulnerable and share my story and how it helped benefit me, then maybe if I just help one person, then it was worth it. And so I didn't have to be a Bible scholar or somebody who is on the prayer team and is leading in the church in this way or that way, but as long as I could be there for people and coach them, help them through, like they've got to do the work at that point. Like I've already gone through it enough. I know that the participant, the onus is on you when you're going through it to do the work and to put in the time and effort. I just kind of had to help.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. And I love that about Unstoppable. I love that people at the end get the sense of not, I've overcome everything in my life and now let's go. But it's like I've overcome a little bit. I've still got a way to go, but I know that God can use me in the situation that I am, in the relationships that I am, in this.
You learn some tools and you got some systems that you can know, if I put this into practice again in this area, it can work again. I also wonder, I mean, that's like your journey, and you're reinvesting it into the church and to Unstoppable Growth. But how is it even impacting you, Unstoppable, as a single mom? Like, is there hope for your children that they can learn something or live something differently than you did because of everything you learned?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think with my parents, they just set the bar really, really high. And so with them, I just feel like I've learned, I don't know, it's hard because I find myself being more patient with them. And I don't want them to have these limiting beliefs that I had. And it's weird because those weren't ever instilled in me by my parents. Those are just me being, wanting to be a people pleaser and wanting to be a perfectionist. And so I've taken that and said, okay, how can I not create that kind of relationship with my children? Like, I don't need them to be perfect. I don't need them to be perfectionists. I don't need them to be people pleasers. How can I take some of these lessons that we've learned and kind of instill in them the different attributes that won't create problems for them later in life. And there was the one lesson about the, I do, you watch, you can probably tell it better than I can, but like that, I was like, oh, that's what I need to do with my, like, I took that lesson back home. And just trying to make them independent, but,
Still empower them.
Yeah.
It's your calling as well. Then.
Yeah. So there's definitely takeaways each week that I get to instill in my parenting for sure. And like I said, it's good because coaching, there's a different group that comes through, each and every time. And so, like I said, I don't know everything. I'm not perfect, but I learn a lot from those ladies and stuff in the coaching groups too. And there's, like you said, I had breakthrough in certain areas. There's other areas that I would still like some breakthrough in or some growth, I guess, in. And so it's just like, each round, I feel like I pick up on new things and can really dig into like this particular capital, whereas I might have focused on a different one the last round. And so it's just ever changing and ever like just learning more and more each time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It is. You made such a good point about taking some of the things you're learning at Unstoppable and bringing it home to your kids. The same thing applies to work and relationships and friendships and family. Like you really can take all those shapes that Tim and Rebecca teach us and apply it to every area of your life.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to hear how you're bringing that back home to your kids.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about being a Bible scholar. I had to look up Jeremiah 29:11.
It is one of the few.
You and I did talk about that like months ago when we were talking about becoming a coach.
Yeah. It's one of the few that I can quote. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I did.
Well, we've come to the end of our time together. And if you at home, wherever you're listening to this or watching this, please feel free to connect with us. Talk to us about any of the content that you heard Lacey talk about, or any questions that you might have about the experience. Or if you want to go and grab the book, that's on Amazon.com. You can get it there. You can also connect with us, contact us. If you go to the homepage, unstoppablegrowth.org, there's a contact, what do you call it?
Contact us
form at the top right. And that goes directly into my personal email box, and I will, or a friend will, answer it and connect with you. So we're excited about that. Anything else closing out, Rebecca, Brian?
Well, my encouragement is for the listeners, keep on digging, keep on taking next steps. Like take Lacey as an example. What I love too with your example, I mean, very often Unstoppable Growth is a good book. There are other good books that you can read by yourself. But the difference when you surround yourself with people that ask you the questions, not being afraid to, hey, if I really want to grow, why not having people involved in my life? And so like attend an Unstoppable Growth course, or do it with your small group or whatever, but like not being afraid to ask people, because you're worth it and it helps you, even for you, like you're saying, there are people on my side moving on forward with me while I'm still a work in progress. So it's not about I have arrived now, but I learned to talk and I learned to process it, and I don't have to do everything by myself. So good.
Yeah, it's just so cool. What, 3 years ago, you were lingering in the background.
Yeah.
And now you are a participant, coach multiple times.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear that. So don't linger in the background too long.
No.
Get involved.
Lacey, at the end, would you be prepared to invest some spiritual capital and to pray? Pray for the...
So this is one place where I do need growth, okay? It's praying out loud for people. That's something that I struggle with. I can pray for myself all day long, but praying out loud for people is...
And believe it or not, so do I,
we need to just
pray.
Yeah. All right. Lord, thank you for bringing us together today to discuss more about Unstoppable Growth. And I thank you for Tim and Rebecca, our fearless leaders, and for Brian for making this podcast happen so that we can reach other people who may need to hear this message. And I just ask that you reach out and encourage those who may be on the fence or who may be lingering in the shadows, to take that next step and to take the plunge and sign up for the next round of Unstoppable, buy the book, and do what you've got to do to put in the work and experience breakthrough. Because once you stick your toes in and you get started, I promise that it is so great, and you just you break the chains and experience breakthrough in so many ways, and it's just so much benefit that is added to your life. So God, just please speak to these people and give them the little extra push or nudge that they need. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.